The New Jersey Amendment to National Electrical Code Section 210.12b concerns arc fault circuit interrupter, or FSI, protection for branch circuits. Section 210.12 addresses the requirements for FSIs to protect dwelling units. Subsection B specifically deals with branch circuit extensions or modifications. The amendment states that the requirement in 210.12b is considered optional. This means the entire requirement is not mandatory in New Jersey. To fully understand the implication, it's important to know what 210.12b entails in the original NEC. Without the amendment, 210.12b would typically require FSI protection when extending or modifying branch circuits in dwelling units. This usually includes bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms, family rooms, recreation rooms, dens, libraries, and similar rooms or areas. FSIs are designed to detect arc faults, a dangerous electrical condition that can lead to fires. They work by monitoring the electrical current and tripping the circuit breaker when an arc fault is detected. This interruption of the circuit can prevent the arc fault from igniting nearby materials and starting a fire. The amendment makes installing FSIs in these situations optional in New Jersey. The effect of this is that while electrical contractors and homeowners are still encouraged to install FSIs for enhanced safety, it is not mandated by the state's electrical code. It is crucial to consult the specific edition of the NEC adopted by New Jersey, as well as any local amendments or interpretations. It is also advisable to consult with a qualified electrical inspector or licensed electrician for clarification on the code requirements applicable to specific projects. Keep in mind that even if FSI protection is optional, it may still be a good idea to install FSIs for the added safety they provide. The decision to install FSIs should be based on a careful assessment of the risks and benefits. It is also essential to ensure that any electrical work is performed by a qualified electrician and in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. There can be some confusion regarding the interpretation of the amendment, so let's clear that up. Firstly, the amendment applies specifically to Section 210.12b. Secondly, the amendment explicitly states that the requirement is optional, not just a part of it. Thirdly, this interpretation has been confirmed by the state. In summary, the New Jersey Amendment to NEC Section 210.12b provides an exception to the mandatory FSI protection requirements for branch circuit extensions or modifications in dwelling units. This exception allows for the installation of FSIs to be considered optional, providing flexibility while still encouraging the use of FSIs for increased safety. The history of FSI requirements in the NEC is relevant. FSIs were first introduced in the 1999 NEC, requiring them for bedroom circuits. Over subsequent code cycles, the requirements were expanded to include additional areas of the home. This expansion aimed to reduce electrical fires caused by arc faults. The New Jersey Amendment represents a deviation from this trend, making the requirement optional rather than mandatory. There are several potential reasons for this deviation. Firstly, the state may have considered the cost of FSI protection to be a significant burden for homeowners. Secondly, the state may have believed that the benefits of FSI protection did not outweigh the costs in all cases. Thirdly, the state may have wanted to provide more flexibility for homeowners and electrical contractors. Regardless of the reasons, it's essential to understand the implications of the amendment. Homeowners and electrical contractors should carefully consider the risks and benefits of FSI protection before making a decision about whether or not to install FSIs. It's also important to be aware of any local codes or regulations that may require FSI protection, even if it is not required by the state electrical code. In some cases, local jurisdictions may have adopted stricter requirements than the state. This means that FSI protection may be mandatory in some areas of New Jersey, even though it is optional under the state's electrical code. Therefore, it's crucial to check with the local building department to determine the specific requirements that apply to a particular project. To make an informed decision about FSI protection, it is important to understand the different types of FSIs available. There are two main types of FSIs: branch/feeder FSIs and outlet branch circuit FSIs, or OBC FSIs. Branch/feeder FSIs are installed in the electrical panel and protect the entire branch circuit. OVC FSIs are installed at the first outlet on the branch circuit and protect the remaining outlets on the circuit. Both types of FSIs can detect arc faults, but they differ in their ability to detect different types of arc faults. Branch/feeder FSIs are better at detecting high current arc faults, while OVC FSIs are better at detecting low current arc faults. The choice of which type of FSI to use depends on the specific application and the types of arc faults that are most likely to occur. It is also important to understand the limitations of FSIs. FSIs are not foolproof devices and they cannot prevent all electrical fires. However, they can significantly reduce the risk of electrical fires caused by arc faults. To further mitigate the risk of electrical fires, it is essential to follow all applicable electrical codes and regulations and to have electrical work performed by a qualified electrician. Homeowners should also regularly inspect their electrical systems for any signs of damage or wear. This includes checking for frayed wires, loose connections, and damaged outlets. If any problems are found, they should be repaired immediately by a qualified electrician. When making decisions about electrical safety, it is always best to err on the side of caution. Even if FSI protection is optional, it may still be a good idea to install FSIs for the added safety they provide. The cost of FSI protection is relatively low compared to the potential cost of an electrical fire. A fire can cause significant damage to property and can even result in injury or death. Therefore, it is important to weigh the costs and benefits carefully before making a decision about whether or not to install FSIs. In addition to the NEC and any state or local amendments, there are other resources available to help homeowners and electrical contractors understand electrical safety. These resources include publications from organizations such as the National Fire Protection Association or NFPA and the Electrical Safety Foundation International or ESC. The NFPA publishes a wide range of codes and standards related to fire safety, including the NEC. The ESC is a non-profit organization that provides educational materials and programs on electrical safety. These resources can help homeowners and electrical contractors stay up to date on the latest electrical safety information. Furthermore, understanding the testing and certification of FSIs is crucial. FSIs are tested and certified by independent testing laboratories such as Underwriters Laboratories or UL. These laboratories test FSIs to ensure that they meet the requirements of the applicable safety standards. The UL listing mark on an FSI indicates that it has been tested and certified to meet these standards. When purchasing FSIs, it is important to look for the UL listing mark to ensure that they are safe and reliable. Also, it is important to know the proper installation techniques for FSIs. FSIs must be installed correctly to function properly. It is also essential to follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing FSIs. If you are not comfortable installing FSIs yourself, you should hire a qualified electrician to do the work. There are several common misconceptions about FSIs. One common misconception is that FSIs are only required for new construction. This is not true. FSIs may also be required for renovations and additions to existing homes, depending on the applicable codes and regulations. Another common misconception is that FSIs are too expensive. While FSIs do cost more than standard circuit breakers, the cost is relatively low compared to the potential cost of an electrical fire. Another misconception is that FSIs are difficult to install. While it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully, FSIs are not particularly difficult to install. However, if you are not comfortable working with electricity, you should hire a qualified electrician to do the work. When dealing with electrical installations, safety must always be the top priority. This means following all applicable codes and regulations, using the right tools and equipment, and taking the necessary precautions to prevent electrical shock and other hazards. Electrical work can be dangerous, so it is important to be properly trained and qualified before attempting any electrical work. It is also important to be aware of the potential hazards of electricity, such as electrical shock, arc flash, and electrocution. Arc flash is a dangerous electrical explosion that can occur when a short circuit occurs in the air. Arc flash can cause severe burns, blindness, and even death. Electrocution is the most severe form of electrical shock, which can cause death. In general, when working with electricity, it is always best to be cautious and to follow all safety precautions. If you are not sure how to do something safely, you should ask a qualified electrician for help. They should also know the requirements specified in Article 100, Article 110.3b, Article 200.4b, Article 210.8, Article 210.11c3, Article 210.19a, Article 210.20, Article 215.3, Article 215.10, Article 220, Article 225.30, Article 230.42a, Article 250, Article 300.22c, Article 310.15, Article 314, Article 330, Article 404.2c, Article 406.4d, Article 406.12, Article 408, Article 409, Article 422, Article 430, Article 440, Article 445, Article 450, Article 500, Article 501, Article 502, Article 503, Article 504, Article 505, Article 511, Article 513, Article 514, Article 515, Article 516, Article 517, Article 518, Article 520, Article 525, Article 530, Article 540, Article 547, Article 550, Article 551, Article 552, Article 600, Article 604, Article 605, Article 610, Article 620, Article 625, Article 626, Article 630, Article 640, Article 645, Article 646, Article 647, Article 650, Article 660, Article 665, Article 668, Article 669, Article 670, Article 675, Article 680, Article 682, Article 685, Article 690, Article 692, Article 694, Article 695, Article 700, Article 701, Article 702, Article 705, Article 708, Article 710, Article 720, Article 725, Article 727, Article 760, Article 770, Article 800, Article 810, Article 820, Article 830, Article 840, Article 900, and all the informational notes.